Hi guys, welcome to our daily encounter. One topic that comes up uh, more than once in our reading today is that of the land. In chapter 13, the Lord promises Abram the land that he was walking on after him and Lot had kind of departed ways. God tells him this in verse 14. He says, "Now lift up your eyes and look from the place where you are, northward and southward and eastward and westward. For all the land which you see, I will give it to you and to your descendants forever." And then we see it also in chapter 15, where the Lord gives basically two promises, the promise of seed and the promise of land. And in connection to the land, in chapter 15, the Lord tells him, he says in verse 7, "And he said to him, I am the Lord who brought you out of the Ur of the Chaldeans to give you this land to possess it." And then it's alluded to further down when he talks about how Abram's descendants would be in a foreign land for 400 years in darkness, but that then they would return back to that land. In verse 18, it says, "To your descendants I have given this land, from the river of Egypt as far as the great river, the river Euphrates." So time and time again in our reading, we hear about this land that was promised to Abram, which might make us pause and think, what's the big deal about the land? Why does God emphasize the land so much? Why is God so intent on giving Abram land? We could think of a thousand different other possessions that God could have promised Abram besides land, but the Lord specifically wants to give Abram land. And I think to properly understand the importance of the land, we have to remember what God's original intention was, going all the way back to the beginning of Genesis, where you have the Lord creating the heavens and the earth. What was the Lord looking for when he created the earth? Well, I think we can say that he was looking for a dwelling place. Even in the Garden of Eden, the Lord was dwelling with them and spoke with them and walked with them in the cool of the day. And God had a dwelling place in this creation that he created. And matter of fact, some scholars even see the whole creation story as very parallel to the way in which a person might construct a temple back in ancient times. And so it seems to be that God, in creating this earth, was creating for himself a dwelling place. But he was also interested in having an expression here on this earth through mankind. He made man, male and female, in his image. In his image, he created them, male and female. And so in both males and females, God has his image. God has his expression through created humans. But then also God's dominion is shown through man and woman, as they were commanded to take over the dominion of the birds of the air, the beasts of the field, basically everything that lived on the earth. They were to take dominion over the land and cultivate it, watch over it, and that sort of thing. And through mankind, God's dominion is exercised. And so in creating the heavens and the earth, particularly the earth, God has a dwelling place, he has an expression, and he has one to exercise his dominion. But we know, as we continued through our reading, just in the past few days, we saw just how fast, or at least as far as pages go, how quickly everything was corrupted. And everything fell apart, and God sent the flood and destroyed every living thing on the earth and started over with Noah and his sons and their wives. And then they began to populate, and then they were corrupted again with the Tower of Babel. And God had to confuse their language so that they would go and fill the earth like they were originally supposed to. And then you also have the idol worship being exercised and being used at this time. And so once again, the earth was becoming corrupt. And now the Lord once again wants to go back to the original plan in a sense, and that is have at least a place on the earth in which he could have what he originally intended, and that is to have a place where he can dwell, to have people who will express him, and a nation through whom he can exercise his dominion. And that's what he's shooting for here with the descendants of Abram, which will later be called Israel. They would have a plot of land, and this land is very unique. As a matter of fact, in Israel, you have almost like a microcosm of the whole earth. There's all different types of land, different types of climates that represent all of the earth. And so you can see really Israel as a small sliver of the earth that can really be symbolic of the whole earth, but in a smaller portion. But nonetheless, he chose this particular land to have Abram, a man of faith, and his descendants live in which now he can once again have a dwelling place. He would have his temple constructed there in Israel. There he would dwell in his temple among his people. They would come and worship him, offer up sacrifices to him. He would also have an expression through them as they observed his law, and therefore expressed his character by observing his law. He would also have a people who would exercise his dominion as he would give them the strength to overcome their enemies. Now God was getting back to the original plan, but it was going to be on a smaller scale with these particular people for the point of being a beacon to the rest of the world, to point them back to what God really wanted for mankind in the first place. And so this promising of the land, yes, would be a blessing to Abram, but it's also a means by which God will be able to get back to what he had originally planned. Now, as we go through the story, we'll find out that even that becomes corrupted because Israel just doesn't live up to what they were supposed to be. And they corrupt the land, and they mess it up, and they mess up the covenant. They break the covenant with God. And so the Lord then establishes another people and calls out another people to fulfill what he wanted. A people who would be his dwelling place. And now we're talking about the church. Christ came as the ideal Israel, the representative of Israel. He was crucified on the cross. And as we have faith in him, as Abraham had faith in God, in the promise found here in Genesis chapter 15, we're connected to Christ. We become descendants of Abram through faith when we walk in the faith that he had, as Galatians chapter 3 talks about. And we become the dwelling place of God. We become the church, as 1 Corinthians chapter 3 talks about, 1 Corinthians chapter 6, 2 Corinthians chapter 6 talks about. We become the dwelling place of God, but we also become the expression of God on this earth. As God's presence is with us, as he is working in us and through us, as we listen to his word and obey his commandments, we become his expression on the earth. And so the Lord, once again, has a people on the earth to express him. And now, not just on one sliver of land, but scattered throughout all the world, God has an expression. And then also we exercise his dominion. As we share the gospel with people, as we tell them about the love of God demonstrated through Jesus Christ, and they submit to Christ through the preaching of the gospel, God's kingdom grows and his dominion grows. And therefore, through our being faithful in relaying the message of the gospel, God has his dominion. And so through the church, he has what he originally wanted. He has a dwelling place, he has an expression, and he has ones to exercise his dominion. And then we'll see all of this really come to a head in the new heavens and new earth. When we get to the end of our readings, we'll see in Revelation that God is going to make all things new, and that there will be new heavens and new earth where righteousness dwells, as 2 Peter chapter 3 teaches us. And there the Lord really will dwell. There he will truly have his full expression there, and also his dominion will finally completely rule, and even the last enemy, death, will be overtaken. So this is a major theme in the Bible, and it's already coming out at the beginning here with this promise to Abram. And hopefully we can keep this in our minds as we continue through the scriptures, but also take it to heart and to remember what our calling is, and that is to give God a dwelling place, to express him, and also to further his kingdom, his dominion, through the proclamation of the gospel. So here's some things we can reflect on and think about as we do our reading today. With that, guys, I do thank you for watching the video today. Hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. God bless.